Hi, so I'm James White and I'm here with Paul from Telford Laundry. Paul, hi. Well, thanks very much for being introduced to your premises here.
No problem.
Can you introduce yourself and a bit about Telford Laundry, please?
Yes, Telford Laundry is owned by Jill and myself. It was first established in 1988 and we are a small regional processor of linen hire and industrial services, towels, mats and workwear.
Okay, and your customer base is quite varied across the whole Midlands area?
Yes, we're basically central England and Wales to the coast.
Fantastic. So it's obviously a business you've had for a number of years, and I guess you've seen sort of ups and downs, I guess, in the laundry industry in that time. Is now a good period of time for the laundry industry, or are there some challenges that you as a business owner are looking to try and resolve?
Now is a crazy time. It's crazy across the sales front and the cost front.
Yeah.
In sales terms, the acquisitions and takeovers in the marketplace have obviously created a huge opportunity for smaller businesses.
Yeah.
And also on the cost side, the pressure that's exerted by our major cost sectors such as payroll, for example. You know, we used to be in an industry which would operate at 30–35% wage cost, and it's creeping up and up and up and becoming ever more pressured in terms of producing work profitably, especially for the smaller laundry.
Yeah. Because
we don't have the financial clout to go out and spend thousands, if not millions of pounds on new equipment to automate and reduce our labour force. So in many ways we're still stuck traditionally with the old ways of doing things, and we can automate as much as we can afford, but not beyond that.
Sure. So does that mean that, you know, really interesting that you say that about the cost of the business, does that mean that it's made it even more important for you as a business owner to look at ways in which you can become more efficient and look at ways in which you can reduce costs? And I guess that probably leads us on into why you sort of taken a look at the laundry efficiency and their ozone product in terms of how it can, you know, what was the reason you sort of looked at it and thought, I'm going to have a look at this and see how it could help us?
I had looked at ozone for a long time, and I'm talking years.
Yeah.
As far as I was aware, apart from one provider to the industry who basically serves nursing homes rather than commercial laundries, there was no commercial opportunity available to me in ozone. I was very aware that there were retail offerings which would deal with a domestic size machine, but of course what we have here is, even as a small regional laundry, what we have here is equipment that is significantly different. We have a tunnel washer, we have 57 kilo washer extractors. In spite of our size and our position in the market, we've always been at the forefront of examining opportunities. Last year we put in another machine which was quite different for the industry. It has beads in it, and we trialled it and successfully adopted it. When the opportunity came with ozone efficiency, it was an opportunity to evaluate something that I'd known about a long time, but never had the opportunity because there was nothing that would deal with our size of equipment, or so we thought. So it was a meeting of minds really, in as much as ozone efficiency were looking to find a laundry that would take on a trial responsibly and be able to factually evaluate the opportunity. We have a proven record of doing that because we did it last year with another type of washing machine. And so we reached an agreement whereby we treated all the incoming water to our tunnel washing machine And the reason for that was that one of the points that Graham made was that the performance of ozone was improved by the number of times it was applied to the same product. Well, in a washer extractor you're constantly washing different things. In a tunnel washer, certainly in our case, at our size, we're constantly washing the same things. So for example, all of our towels, all of our duvet covers, all of our sheets, without exception, go through the tunnel washer. So we could guarantee ozone efficiency that the same product would repeatedly be processed using an ozone system. We then took the opportunity when it was offered to install a second machine, which we now have operating on one washer extractor. In both cases, there has been an interesting learning cycle.
Okay.
If I go backwards, one of the first things we did was to ATP test the outcoming work for biological activity. And via bioluminescence testing, we established that there was no biological count whatsoever, 0. We then took the step, so what that meant rather was that, for example, in our washer extractor now, if we're washing coloured work, we can wash coloured work with no chemistry at all, and we've now proven that we can wash it cold. So for example, on last night's shift we were processing navy blue duvet covers in cold water, with no detergent, just with ozone. And again, as recently as last night, we checked the ATP count and it's 0.
Right.
So you know that whilst you may have a residual staining issue, which of course in case of a navy blue duvet cover you don't, but if you did, whilst that may be the case, you can absolutely be certain that it is biologically safe to use. So that has been an interesting development in the washer extractor. What does that mean to me? Well, if I'm washing something cold, I'm not using steam.
Yep.
If I'm not using steam, I'm not using gas.
Yep.
Or any other utility for the heating of water. So potentially, because bearing in mind we're pretty much a month into this trial,
Sure.
and I think the trial will need to run for probably 3 months before we can nail our colours to a mast.
Yeah.
But already we can see, well, if we're washing in cold water, what are the opportunities in the bigger picture? So with Graham's assistance, what we then did was put the tunnel on cold water.
Yep.
Now that is a challenge, because all the tunnel washes is white, no colours. It washes bedding, which although in many cases has only been used once, it depends what it's been used for.
Yeah.
And it depends who's used it.
Yeah, I guess your customer base is varied. So.
Well, yes, and I won't go into detail,
No.
but you can imagine that you know, we all have nosebleeds and
Sure,
others,
sure.
and we have to deal with those sorts of things. The initial, and this is why I said we're going backwards, because we're now going back to where we started, which was the tunnel washer. We started the process using the conventional wash system with conventional detergents, and not changing anything. Subsequently, we turned the heat off to the tunnel washer. We don't have a large tunnel washer, 7-stage, 25 kilos, so it's quite a baby in the marketplace, but
Yeah.
nonetheless,
Still sizable.
it's exactly this, it's just a scaled down version of what any other tunnel washer would be. The way that ozone efficiency described the operating workings of ozone was actually proven in what we experienced. They explained to us that ozone, if you take a tunnel washer and think of it as a pen, a long tube, ozone will exhaust itself as it moves along the tube in direct correlation to what it meets in terms of contamination, soiling, etc. So when we first started using ozone, you can imagine we were cleaning this end of the tunnel. The biggest problem that we had was when it got to the other end and out of the tunnel.
Yep.
And for those who use tunnel washers, they will know that the work goes in automatically, it goes through its stages, and then it exits the machine in what's like described as a cake, and it's rather like an inverted saucer, and it sits in a circular shape, and it's wet. It's then squeezed but still wet, and it then transfers via a vertical transfer unit into a tumble dryer, and from there it exits and goes to the ironing lines. The biggest problem we had was when ozone hit the externals of the tunnel washer, and it sat on the conveyor belt wet and started stripping all the filth, the grime that visually wasn't there but certainly was there, and redepositing it on the linen, and we reached the maximum situation of 1 in 2 items being reject. It was a huge issue.